music for the listener, and we're going to pick up with Richard Strauss, who is a contemporary again of this Vienna period. He comes out of this tradition of Johannes Brahms and Bruckner, Gustav Mahler, and Richard Wagner. Wagner will be the next lecture because he's an opera composer. And I have a video queued up here. But he's a composer of tone poems, concertos, operas. He's a conductor, pianist, and violinist. And he's featured prominently on the playlist with some of his tone poems. And this is a really long playlist. I can't get it to scroll. I apologize for that. Okay, so and this is very well known. That's the beginning of Richard Strauss's tone poem, also Sprach Zarathustra, which is used at the beginning of the film 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick. Here's a little introduction of Strauss as a composer.
Richard Strauss was born on June 11, 1864, in Munich, Germany, to a principal horn player in the Munich Court Orchestra. As a child, he studied violin and piano and composed his first piece at the age of 6. His career began to blossom after his composition Serenade was performed by the members of the Meiningen Orchestra in 1882. Its conductor, Hans von Bülow, took notice and appointed Strauss as his assistant in 1885. Strauss went on to replace him as conductor a month later. From then on, his career would be divided between conducting and composing until his death. Strauss composed several tone poems after being made chief conductor of the Royal Opera in Berlin, including Macbeth, Don Juan, and Don Quixote. After marrying opera soprano Pauline Diana, Strauss began composing operas. Salome, based on a play by Oscar Wilde, and Electra, based on the drama by Sophocles, were among his most famous. The political climate was tumultuous during Strauss's rise to fame, and his naivety led to his exploitation by the Nazi regime. He was appointed president of the Nazi Reichsmusikkammer, a position which he held for 2 years until it was discovered that his daughter-in-law was Jewish. He moved to Vienna during the war, and later to Switzerland, where he was investigated by the Denazification Tribunal and cleared of all Nazi affiliations. His last work, Four Last Songs, was written for voice and orchestra in 1948. Richard Strauss died in 1949 in Garmisch, Germany, at the age of 85.
Traveling through the chapter, our next heavy composer is Tchaikovsky, and reminder on the chapter here. Read through it, and if somebody's important enough to get their own box or ancillary reading, read about them. There's one there about Brahms, and there's a reading here about a piece by Debussy. And I'm just kind of going through here and following some of the narrative about these composers and trying to keep all of them in line. And there's quite a bit written about Tchaikovsky. So here he is. He's a Russian composer. I spell Russian there. We'll fix that. Composes ballets, symphonic music, operas, 6 symphonies that are noted. And there's a link to a biography if you want to check that out, and a couple of YouTube clips. This is from his ballet, Nutcracker. But Walt Disney, for his project Fantasia, had this be selected and had his animators create this scene. Okay. And here's a clip of his fourth movement of his Fourth Symphony. Pick an appropriate volume here, I hope. Yeah, back to the beginning. Wonderful piece, but let's move on to the next composer. Sergei Prokofiev, Sergei Rachmaninoff, Russian, 1873 to 1943, and he's noted for his piano pieces because he himself was a pianist. Piano Concerto Number 2.
Probably the most famous, most popular concerto of Rachmaninoff, mostly played piano concerto of all times. In 1897 was premiere of his first symphony. Glazunov, great Russian composer, conducted the symphony, and the premiere was disaster. So bad for Rachmaninoff, he didn't compose after that almost 3 years. That was really depression. He met a doctor, his name is Nikolai Dahl. He just told him that he will be healthy, he will have a lot of force, he will write new piano concerto. And I don't know how much Rachmaninoff paid for this doctor, but the result was that he became really healthy, and he started to write a second piano concerto. The music seems like to be just okay. It's come from heart. It's just from creation, but not at all from construction. It seems, but it's wonderful if you search the score how interesting the construction is. In these bars which I played, it's already material for almost 1/3 of concerto. So motif development, first movement. And then in a reprise, in the culmination of first movement, when the orchestra plays theme as march, piano plays the same motif. Notes. If you don't search the score, you cannot remark it, and maybe it's good because the music seems like just he brought it from his heart and immediately found the way to your heart. Maybe that's the most important this music.
I recommend the piano works of Rachmaninoff. The symphonies are also pretty cool. Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov is another Russian pianist, somewhat in the vein of Tchaikovsky. Nationalistic Russian folk songs and lore. And I've got a video here queued up of one of Rimsky-Korsakov's famous works. The Flight of the Bumblebee. Also notable is his work Scheherazade and Russian Easter Overture. Claude Debussy, French, 1862 to 1918. First, he's thought of as being the first impressionist composer, though he hated that terminology. Derives influence from Russia and Far East. Initially, is influenced by Wagner, but later kind of draws away from Wagner. Works for the piano, orchestra, suites, and tone poems. And I have an introduction here to Debussy, with Debussy's music playing underneath.
Claude Debussy was born on August 22, 1862, in Saint-Germain-en-Laye, France. He grew up in a suburb of Paris where his parents ran a china shop. At the age of 10, Debussy entered the Paris Conservatoire to study music. Despite his unique improvisational style of playing, Debussy was awarded the Prix de Rome in 1884. This honor awarded him with a 3-year fellowship to study in Rome. Upon completion, Debussy returned home to Paris and was introduced to the music of Richard Wagner. He was inspired by Wagner's works initially, however became more nationalistic and some would say even anti-German as his career progressed. This was due to the mounting tensions in the pre-World War I nations of Europe. In addition to Wagner, Debussy was also heavily influenced by Japanese and Spanish music, impressionistic painters Monet, Pissarro, Degas, and Cézanne, and his beloved city of Paris, which was a hub of the bohemian lifestyle. It was here where, surrounded by artists and fellow musicians, even laundresses and prostitutes, Debussy composed his Suite Bergamasque in 1890, which features the famous piece Clair de Lune. Debussy married and had a daughter in 1905 and composed the Children's Corner Suite as a gift to her. His work is characterized by subtle, shifting harmonies and melodies based on chromatically enriched minor and major modes, as well as whole tone, pentatonic, and irregular modal constructions. Claude Debussy passed away on March 25, 1918, due to colon cancer during a German bombardment in Paris at the age of 55.
Some of his notable works are Clair de la Lune, and The Clouds and La Mer of the Sea. Next mentioned in passing is Maurice Ravel, another French composer, 1875 to 1937. It follows Debussy in the Impressionistic style, ballets, concertos, and sonatas, And here's a short bio of Maurice Ravel. Oh, I'm sorry. Picked the wrong slide.
Maurice Ravel was born on March 7, 1875, in Ciboure, France, a small town in southwestern France less than 2 miles from the French-Spanish border. Influence of living so close to Spain was later evident in such pieces as the famous ballet Bolero. Ravel showed great promise at a young age. To further develop his talent, at age 14 he entered the Paris Conservatory. Perhaps best known, along with Claude Debussy, as a romantic impressionist composer and leading figure in the music of modernism. However, his piano concerto in G and sonatina follow a more classical structure. His first major success was the virtuistic piano piece Jeu d'Yeux. During World War I, Ravel applied to join the military, but was declined entry because of his small stature and frail body type. He instead volunteered as an ambulance driver. Ravel did not travel much, and after moving from Ciboure early in life, he lived out his remaining days in Paris. His one big trip was to America in 1928, where he met George Gershwin and Charlie Chaplin. In 1932, he contracted Pick's disease, a rare form of dementia, and died 5 years later in 1937 at the age of 62.
And Spain, Manuel de Falla, composer and pianist, works for ballet and orchestra. And I've got there's a piano roll recording of that Dufay made before he passed away, one of his works. We're not going to listen to the entire work, but and quickly, let's listen to some Grieg. Grieg is mentioned on the playlist, but he's not mentioned in the chapter. Norwegian, 1843 to 1907, composer and pianist. And though these are a lot of composers that I've quickly covered, there are many more of this time period. the Romantic period is the heaviest time period for the symphony orchestra, classical chamber music, and opera. That's kind of the core of what's on programs. Here's a famous work by Grieg. And that closes this lecture.